Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeremiah Johnson, Director of Marketing for BI Consulting Group, and I will be introducing this next chapter in the BICG webinar series. Today's topic, Essbase Unleashed, will be presented by Rodney Adkins, a Solutions Architect and Certified Essbase Specialist at BICG. Rodney has over 15 years of experience, leveraging Essbase and supporting components. He has a robust knowledge of all phases of application development within Essbase, Essbase Integration Server, Hyperion Planning, Data Integration Management, Financial Data Quality Management, Hyperion Financial Management, Hyperion Financial Reporting Studio, and Hyperion Web Analysis. Rodney has a degree in Finance and Economics from Towson University and is certified in the areas of Hyperion System 9, Essbase, Hyperion Data Integration Management, and Hyperion Financial Data Quality Management. He has accrued his experience over the years at companies such as Honeywell Aerospace, GlaxoSmithKline, and Blue Cross Blue Shield. At the very end of the webinar, we will announce the winners of the free BICG University Training Token, redeemable for a free seat in a BICG University training course. The free token is worth up to $1,800 in value. A complete course schedule can be accessed at bicguniversity.com. We encourage all attendees to pose questions and comments to Rodney at any time during the webinar. Questions can be asked through the chat window located in your GoToWebinar control module. Rodney will address your questions during the Q&A period following the presentation. If you want to find out more about BI Consulting Group or how we can assist your organization with Oracle Essbase, please contact us through our website at biconsultinggroup.com. Once again, this is an interactive forum, so please feel free to pose questions or comments to Rodney at any time during the presentation through the chat window. I will now pass it to Rodney, who is currently located in a secret location somewhere in the great state of Maryland. Rodney?
Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this presentation. Let me just start with pulling up the agenda. I just briefly want to hit the highlights of what we're going to be covering today. The pace may be a little fast because at the end of this PowerPoint presentation, we're going to actually hop over into BICG's demo environment for a live demonstration of the powers of XOLAP, what's involved in creating an XOLAP model, and give you a demonstration of how behind the scenes things are changing in the relational data store and how that's exposed to the end users. So real-time ad hoc analysis against transactional level details. I'm going to go ahead and just dive straight into things. So the underlying question, why should you implement Essbase against relational data sources? If your organization is anything like the multitude of clients that I've worked with, IT groups, COOs, CIOs, they may be exposing you to, giving you the vast amounts of details that you need, but the data is often stagnant and in silos. It's disparate. Most management processes are distinct and separate. You may have a Six Sigma initiative, financial modeling, and operational planning. Often in most organizations that we're exposed to, this information is not readily available across all the management processes. Basically what's evolved has been, distinct BI EPM solutions have addressed what should be a seamless continuum. We're always striving to move to this upper right-hand quadrant of modeling, being dynamic, future-oriented. But what we find in most organizations is you're either somewhere in the middle or in the lower left-hand quadrant. So data's a bit stagnant. It's more operational in nature rather than being strategic and dynamic. So what we hope to present today is, some ideas of moving towards that upper right-hand quadrant. One of my colleagues, Chris Dennis, put this slide together when he was doing a webinar relating to data warehousing and global global BI EPM vision. And it just reinforces the fact that we always want to be moving towards the not so static operational information, but the more dynamic information that allows end users to make strategic business decisions. So what the slide demonstrates is, we want to move towards the upper right, getting away from analysis based upon activity or specific relational databases, things of that nature. We want to have a integrated view that leverages not only relational data, but also the powers of multidimensional models. So this is an excerpt from the Harvard Business School Press, and it just talks about striving towards business intelligence maturity. And what we hope to present today is an idea of moving towards being an analytical competitor rather than analytically impaired. So I guess the million-dollar question everyone's out there asking is, or thinking about is, what could a integrated solution between relational and Essbase look like? And how is it different than, some of the past technologies leveraging Essbase Studio? So what this slide here represents is one of the approaches that we've leveraged at numerous clients in regards to leveraging the powers of Essbase, leveraging the powers of relational, and integrating not only the Hyperion components, but also OBIE, the modules relating to Oracle, eBusiness Suite. I'm going to take a few minutes to briefly describe this solution that we've presented and implemented at other clients. So at the bottom of the slide, you'll notice that we're essentially assembling the various relational data sources through a ETL tool, typically Informatica, and staging that information in a data warehouse or a data mart. To the left, to the right, you'll notice that we have HFM depicted. What we often do is we leverage that data that's been staged from your legacy systems, your legacy GLs. It could be a multitude of GLs, and we leverage FDQM to pull that information into HFM. So during your HFM processes, you're going to be closing the books, making topside journal entries, doing eliminations, things of that nature. We then pipe that information right back into the data mart, leveraging extended analytics against HFM. What that then allows us to do is assemble the data post-close, post-journal entries, post-manipulation back into the data mart. We often then pull that information, being the actuals, into the Hyperion planning and leverage that as a starting point for doing forecasts, annual plans, budgets, things of that nature. And then also move that data right back into the data mart/data warehouse. What that then allows us to do is, with all that information, actuals, budgets, forecasts, journal entries, things of that nature, is also the assembly of your Oracle modules and things of that nature. It allows us one point where we can build a multitude of different Essbase applications off that relational data store. So leveraging Essbase Studio, we could create an XOLAP application against transactional data in Oracle EBS. Or we could do variance analysis between actuals that were closed in HFM versus your budget pull from planning, and then drill into the transactional layer that's making up those actuals. So this is our global BI EPM vision. And then on the top of this slide that you see here is the various reporting tools that a lot of organizations are leveraging. So sitting on top of architecture that is demonstrated here allows you the capability of getting to vast amounts of information. So why integrate Essbase with relational data sources? You're leveraging the best of both worlds. Relational databases have the near unlimited scalability, and you can store several terabytes worth of data. Multi-dimensional databases, they offer the sophisticated analytical capabilities. So we're going to leverage the scalability of relational and the conceptual power of multi-dimensional databases. So leveraging XOLAP, why would you do something like this? Well, think about it from this slide's perspective. You have end users changing the product's price. You have your marketing group changing an advertising timetable or updating their budget for radio campaigns. Your customer database is changing because credit limits are changing or salary levels are changing, things of that nature. By staging the data the way I had in that prior slide and integrating the data in that perspective, you have the capability of seeing, what happens if my inventory levels drop 10%? Are customers going to go elsewhere? Things of that nature. So what I wanted to highlight in this slide with the advent of version 11, we now have 4 different components that are available to us in Essbase that allow us to leverage that conceptual power. The first 2, or some might argue the first 3, can really get to that level of relational data. XOLAP is essentially leveraging relational data sources and building virtual cubes. Hybrid analysis is, again, leveraging a relational data source to access lower levels of data in your multi-dimensional databases by only storing the data at upper levels in Essbase, but accessing the lower levels of the hierarchies in Essbase by passing that query through into the relational data store. And then, you still have the aggregate storage option, which actually, when XOLAP is deployed, it's actually deploying the aggregate storage database. And then you still have our tried and true block storage app, with the essentially, great deals of flexibility in regards to developing allocations, calculations, and the reporting of data. So I guess another question that some of you might be asking is, how is this real-time analysis and ad hoc capabilities possible. Well, I put together this slide as a visual depiction of, what's occurring behind the scenes. The downward arrow is representing your transactional stores, constantly in flux, ever-changing. People are inserting records, dropping records, updating records. That data is stored in the RDBMS. So what's occurring behind the scenes when the end user is querying an XOLAP application is, since it's a completely virtual cube, there's no data stored in it. So when that end user goes to query a specific channel of your business for a specific customer, to look at specific products for units, costs, sales, things of that nature, transactional-based SQL is being generated behind the scenes. So think about it. Think of the possibilities. You have a planning and forecasting model that you want to do variance analysis against. And a lot of you out there might be saying, well, we pass actuals from our legacy system into our planning model or our Essbase model. But think about the possibilities of, having that data being real time. What this slide is depicting is, hey, we have an XOLAP application that's sitting against Teradata or Oracle or, SAP, any of the relational databases, and we're capturing that data real time. And then think about it from the perspective of, how about I integrate that planning, annual plan, budgets, forecasts with that real-time data into a reporting cube, which I'm depicting here as a ASO reporting cube. It really kind of moves you away from that static, siloed concept. So how is XOLAP different from hybrid analysis? Like I mentioned before, it only stores the metadata. There's no data stored within the application whatsoever. So from a scalability concept, you're not managing block size, indexes, and page files, things of that nature. So it's a multi-dimensional database that is, its sole purpose is presenting the metadata for you. While hybrid analysis, it's marrying both worlds together. It does have data contained within it at upper levels, but when you get to lower levels, the data is being presented from the relational data store. So again, it's leveraging the power of, or the best of both worlds. So I may have gone through that relatively hurried, but what I really wanted to get to was the meat of the presentation, the actual live demonstration. So you can see how with Essbase Studio, it's relatively friendly to actually stage the model and actually show a live demonstration of how transactions are happening behind the scenes and how that information is exposed through Essbase. So if I've hurried through any of that information, I mean, if you have any questions, feel free to post it to the chat. What I'm going to do now is hop over into our demo environment. And so I've already gone ahead and logged into a multitude of different applications here. What I've just jumped into is Oracle's Essbase Studio for those of you that haven't been exposed to this. I also have some other applications open. I'm going to go ahead and create a model from scratch here. And then also I have a SQL Developer here to show you, what the fact table looks like. Actually insert records into the fact, and then also I'll move into Smart View to give you an idea of, or actually demonstrate how things are changing behind the scenes and how Essbase is capturing that. So I kind of want to focus here on Essbase Studio. The interface that they've developed is extremely straightforward. This Getting Started panel actually walks you through the steps that are necessary to deploy an Essbase model, be it block storage, aggregate storage, hybrid analysis, or XOLAP. So I've already, the first step is to create your data sources. I've already gone through and made my connections to not only Essbase, which is HypeVM actually represents as a connection to the Essbase server, but also in my relational data source, which is Oracle, I am leveraging the global sample schema that many of you might have worked with already. So those connections have already been made. I've also defined what my mini schema is. So I'll go ahead and click on that. And essentially what the mini schema represents is, how are the tables, the dimension tables joining to the fact. So that's already been, I've already defined that already for time's sake. So once you've created your data source and developed your mini schemas, you'll have this metadata navigator window to the left of Essbase Studio. At that point, you essentially have access to the tables that are presented in your data source. You then want to create your hierarchies and your measure hierarchies. And that's a relatively simple process. By right-clicking, I actually created a folder for content management standpoints called hierarchies. What I did is I right-clicked on that folder and said, I want a new, and then this is the hierarchy panel. You have the capability of establishing a standard or base hierarchy, a measure hierarchy, which you're going to base off your fact table, and then a calendar hierarchy. With XOLAP, you cannot create the calendar hierarchy. You want to create that as a standard hierarchy. If I created a calendar hierarchy here at this point, XOLAP wouldn't be enabled when I go to do the cube deployment. So just a little tidbit of information there for you. Again, for time's sake, I've already gone ahead and created the hierarchies. But briefly, I can walk you through how that's done. You have the capability to establish depth. So essentially, this is 4 generations deep, this hierarchy. If I wanted to add more detail or more depth to this dimension, I could either simply choose an item from this product dimension table. Say, I've already defined the full depth, but say I wanted to now include item ID. I could simply drag that over and drop it on top of its parent, and it's going to add it as a child to that member. I just went ahead and deleted that. Or you could do from clicking on the add button, I could add a child or a sibling to this member. You do have the capability of previewing what the hierarchy is going to look like as you're building it in this hierarchy tool. So a lot of nice features here. So I already have all my hierarchies established. My next step, and I'll go back here to the cheat sheet, is I need to create a cube schema. So here's my cube schema. Here's my Essbase model. And just for demonstration purposes, to show you how easy it is to do, I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And so my next step is I need to create a cube schema. And what that's simply doing, I'm going to give it a title called global. If I type, what that's simply doing is defining what are my hierarchies. So I moved my measures hierarchy up into the measures window, and all the other standard hierarchies I moved down into the hierarchies window. Again, you have the capability to preview, you know. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And now I'm going to say I want to create the Essbase model. So essentially, what this is mimicking is, you know, the mini schema that we set up in the very beginning, but it's Essbase hierarchy specific now, and it's joining to the fact table. So going back to our little cheat sheet, our next step is let's deploy the cube. So this is where we're actually going to define things as being, as this is being a XOLAP model. So we can expose all the functionality and to this tool. And also to show you there's no hocus pocus going on behind the scenes, I just popped over to Essbase, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh, Essbase Administration Server, and I'm going to refresh my application list to show you that, you know, there isn't an application out there called Global. I'm going to go ahead and create that application called Global. So I'm going to simply create the application called Global and a database called Global. And I'm not going to worry about any of this information here. What I'm really concerned about is popping over into this Models Property tab. And you'll notice that when you're sitting on the top of the Essbase model, you have this general tab. I want to enable it as an XOLAP model, and you'll notice that it automatically creates this as an ASO model and automatically enables duplicate member name support. You do have the capabilities of assigning alias tables, things of that nature. For the sake of this demonstration, I haven't set up alias tables or attributes. So I'm going to go ahead and just speed along with the demonstration. Once you click Apply and click Close, it's going to do a validation for you to check the model before it's actually deployed. And thankfully, there's no warnings. So I'm going to go ahead and close that Models Property window, and I'm actually going to go ahead and click Finish. What this is doing now is it's creating the Essbase cube. It's creating the metadata for you. I believe this global schema table has upwards of 250,000 records. It's analyzing the metadata, and it's creating the metadata hierarchies. So now, if I go over and refresh my application list, I should see global, which I do. There's the database, and this is what the outline looks like. So what I also want to demonstrate for you is, remember, we said build the outline only. We didn't load any data. We didn't run any calculations. I'm going to go over into Smart View for Essbase. And you'll notice that global is now available to me. And I'm going to do some ad hoc analysis. So look, no data loaded, no calculations run, but I have information available to me. So one thing I want to demonstrate to you is, sorry, I'm popping to a lot of different places, but I want to show you the fact table that I was hitting against. So here's the fact. I know of a very specific data point that has no data. I'm going to apply that filter to the fact table. So with that filter applied, there are no records in that fact table that for the channel ID catalog for August of 1998 for the customer called Piedmont. So Essbase should emulate that. So I'm going to move some records around here, or move some dimensions around here, I should say. So I'm going to look at the channel called catalog. The customer called Piedmont. And the time period was August of 1998. So you notice there's no data there. I'm going to go ahead and actually zoom in onto the various products and the various measures. So once again, Essbase correlates to what's being presented in the relational layer. Now, I'm going to remove that filter again. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert records into the fact table. Thank goodness, everything is successful. So now if I apply that filter, I do have records for Piedmont, for catalog, for August of 98. And even if I went in there and directly updated this in the fact and committed the record, remember before, we had nothing there for Piedmont, for 98, for catalog, for any of those products. So now that information is there, and from a real-time ad hoc capability standpoint, with no magic happening behind the scenes other than the power of Essbase Studio and XOLAP. No calculations were run, no data was loaded to Essbase. So, let me go ahead and hop back on over to the remainder of the presentation. But what I really wanted to exhibit here is, how relatively easy it is to stage this model and the ease and flexibility of the tool and how it really gets down to the transactional level of data and real-time capabilities. It would rebuild the metadata, and then end users could have the capability of querying the application once again. That type of process could actually be scheduled through Maxell. The third bullet point, XOLAP isn't available when derived text measures are used in the cube schema. And then one item that I highlighted is XOLAP is only capable of being leveraged in aggregate storage, and it's automatically duplicate member enabled. Usages that are not supported in XOLAP, I want to hit upon a couple of these. You can't leverage flat files as your fact table. It needs to be a true relational store. The next item, ragged hierarchies. It needs to have the same level of depth in regards to the hierarchy because it's leveraging relational data sources. Alternate hierarchies. I'm probably hearing a gasp out there in the real Essbase world, the real Essbase users world, in regards to my alternate hierarchies have been taken away from me. Well, there's a way around that. Since these models don't contain any data, you could present one application and database that is rolling up the data from one perspective, and then turn around and then deploy another application and database that has it rolled up in the different viewpoint that you want it. Say if you were a healthcare company and you wanted you know, the data rolled up geographically for your regional directors, but then you wanted it rolled up by hospital and medical center for the true operational business analyst perspective. You would stage just two different cubes because you don't have the overhead of storing that data. So that's a use that's not supported, but it can certainly be worked around. Recursive hierarchies. Your dimensions cannot be parent-child, so you can't have a table that's recursive as your dimension table for items that you want to expose to XOLAP. Essbase Studio can definitely handle recursive hierarchies. One of my current clients has recursive hierarchies, and we're building the dimensions from those recursive hierarchies. So Essbase Studio can totally handle that. Again, the calendar type of hierarchy can't be leveraged in XOLAP. Filtering the data in the Essbase Studio model can occur. Measures, and then the final two is no user-defined members at the leaf level because it wants to load the data at the leaf level member. And then only one single relational data source. So at this point, I'm going to pop back over to the webinar chat window to see if there's any questions out there. Hopefully everyone's saw the power of integrating Essbase into or leveraging Essbase to integrate relational data sources. I'm going to go ahead and pop one over to the chat window to see if there's any questions, and then actually hand things back over to Jeremiah.
Rodney, it looks like we've got quite a few questions coming in. A little online production meeting here. If you can go to your questions pane, there's a button to undock that pane from the control panel. And then if you wanted to sort the questions by received, that might help you organize the questions a little bit easier.
Okay, can you walk me through that again? Sorry.
Sure. If you go to, in the control panel, there's a pane for questions. And in the right corner of that pane, there's a button to undock that pane from the control panel.
Okay.
You can increase the size of that window.
I'm trying, guys. I see file, save chat log, save questions, view, attendee list, audience chat.
Yep, the questions pane.
I don't see that questions pane.
Okay. Well, you know what? Here's what we'll do. I'll go ahead and I'll pose the questions to you, and then
sure.
You can go from there. The first question we have from Edward. I believe he's looking for you to expand on the acronyms of FDM and HFM.
Okay.
So FDM, HFM.
Okay. FDM is Financial Data Quality Management. Well, they've changed the name, the acronyms a couple times. It's now Financial Data Quality Management, and it's a mapping tool that's leveraged to move data into HFM, as well as I've seen it used for planning in the Essbase also. HFM is Hyperion Financial Management. It's a consolidation tool that customers/clients leverage to close their books, do journal entries, type-side journal entries, intercompany eliminations, currency conversions. It's a very powerful tool.
The next question we have is from Andy, and I believe this relates to the BI EPM solutions environment slide or architecture slide you had up.
Sure.
Does the BI platform data warehouse layer need to be distinct from the Oracle BI applications data mart?
So could I ask a question? Can we ask a question back to him? Is he asking, do we have to recreate the data warehouse, or can we create a subset of the data warehouse? Is that essentially what the question is? Because we don't want to recreate your data warehouse or your business warehouse. We want to create a subset of that, or a data mart to stage the information that needs to support the solution. So kind of reading into this question a little bit more, if you're asking, does it need to be in the exact same environment? I'm not an infrastructure person, but I've seen at other clients where it's completely on a separate server and the ETL tools are moving the data onto the other server. And I've seen it in the same environment. I can't really speak to what's the best from an infrastructure standpoint. That's not my domain or expertise, but we certainly have people that could answer those questions for you.
All right, the next question is from Greg. Without XOLAP, does Essbase physically store cubes?
With BSO, with all the other technologies, there will be not only metadata stored with Essbase, but as well as data. If you're a block storage person, block storage is creating an index in a page file. The pages contain the data. The index file is the pointers to the data. So to answer your question, for all the technologies that I mentioned here today, all 4 of them relating to Essbase, the metadata is physically created in a cube, and it is stored on the Essbase.
All right, the next question is from Greg. Without XOLAP, does Essbase physically store cubes?
With BSO, with all the other technologies, there will be not only metadata stored with Essbase, but as well as data. If you're a block storage person, block storage is creating an index in a page file. The pages contain the data. The index file is the pointers to the data. So to answer your question, for all the technologies that I mentioned here today, all 4 of them relating to Essbase, the metadata is physically created in a cube, and it is stored on the Essbase server. The differentiating factor is XOLAP has no data whatsoever in it. Hybrid Analysis has some data in Essbase, while with the other storage methods, it's both metadata and data.
Edward asks if we can send out the briefing slides, so I can answer this one for Edward. Edward, we are currently recording this webinar, and after this webinar, we're going to review the recording, and hopefully we will be releasing this out on the BI Consulting Group website under the Knowledge Base tab sometime in the next couple weeks. And we will send out an email follow-up to everybody who's attended that they can go access this presentation again. Next question from Jeff. Will Essbase Studio handle recursive hierarchy?
Yes, it will. You cannot leverage a recursive hierarchy in an XOLAP model. It would either have to be generation or level builds. But it will handle recursive hierarchies. I'm deploying a couple models for a client right now, and they're leveraging Essbase Studio, and their dimension tables are recursive in nature. The only thing that you have to do when you're leveraging a recursive table to build dimensions is you need to do a self-join between the parent and the child in that table when you're doing the mini schema portion of setting up the model in Essbase Studio. So it definitely handles recursive hierarchies. One footnote to that fact is your fact table, you don't want it to be recursive. And then however many measures that you're loading into the application, or accounts or measures that you're loading into the application, you're going to want to represent it as a specific column in your fact table.
Next question is from Christian. Can you integrate Essbase Studio with ETMA?
I haven't tried to do that myself. Interesting question. You know what? I will. I'll actually try that, and if we get your information, I will shoot the results set back to you.
Next question is from Doug. I think this relates to the demo. What are the implications for the outline and connected users when the underlying RDBMS has records for a new product?
If the product doesn't currently exist in your fact table, and of course it wouldn't exist in your dimension tables, you would be missing that data. Like I was mentioning before, if your metadata changes, so you have new members to your dimension, you need to redeploy the application. when you redeploy the application, that new metadata member is going to be inserted into your outline, and then you have all the capabilities of doing that real-time ad hoc analysis. So if the metadata is changing, you need to redeploy the application.
Our friend Terrence asked the question, how's the performance when you need to retrieve data at the summary level and the SQL will aggregate million records at a time?
I can go, that's actually one thing I didn't demonstrate. Are you guys still seeing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out. And remember, so I'm zooming out right now up into the product hierarchy. I'm going to go ahead and move customer over. Sorry. Just to give you a visual representation. So all these queries are happening on the fly. I'm going to zoom out of the customer dimension. Now I'm at the top of customer. I'll actually move time periods over and pivot it down. So it's relatively robust. I'm going to zoom all the way to the bottom of all the time periods. So so far I really haven't seen how efficient the tool is in regards to the number of records. I've done some benchmarking, and I've had fact tables that have been, 20 million records, 12th dimension models, and I'm seeing the same performance that you just saw here today. Haven't gotten into the terabyte realm yet. Our IT people would probably frown upon it since it's our demo environment. And we demo other items or other components to clients with this.
Andy asked, how many customers have implemented XOLAP? I don't know if you're going to know that question, answer that question or not, but you might have.
I have. It's a relatively new product. I have 2 clients that are right now considering it as a tool to move towards. I'm not aware of anyone that's actually implemented XOLAP, but we have 2 customers that, one customer that is strongly leaning towards doing a POC against Oracle EBS.
Bruce asks, when would you use this approach versus Oracle Analytics, formerly Siebel, which also draws directly from relational stores?
Well, from a speed of use as well as deployment perspective, I would say that, setting this right on top of the relational store, say one of your Oracle modules, deploying that is going to be, deploying XOLAP would expose the data much faster than I believe the Siebel product would. I'm not all that familiar with that. We have those experts in-house. My domain is more from an EPM standpoint. So that would be interesting to do an analysis of when you would use the two products against one another. Like I mentioned, my domain is more the EPM side, but that's something that we can definitely flush out and present back to you.
So we have a tremendous amount of questions that have come through, Rodney. We just don't have time to get to all of them. So thank you to everybody who has submitted their questions. We have a record of every question that everybody has asked. I will forward those to Rodney after the presentation. He can take a look at them and respond to you if he's got an appropriate answer. But otherwise, we have to wrap up today's webinar. And it is now time to announce the winners of the free BICG University training tokens, redeemable for a free seat in a BICG University training course. The free token is worth up to $1,800 in value. Winners will be sent their free electronic tokens with redemption instructions via email following today's webinar. The winners of the free BICG University training tokens are Vince Hinson from Gilead Sciences, Scott Ryback from BDO, and Ricky Rahi from Safeway. So congratulations to you. We will send out those redemptions instructions via email following the webinar. Next month, please join us for the next chapter in the BICG webinar series on August 31st. That's a Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. BICG's OBIEE 11G Task Force will be highlighting enhancements of the new Oracle Business Intelligence 11G release in a presentation titled OBIEE 11G, What's in It for Me? Registration is now open through biconsultinggroup.com. As mentioned earlier, if you want to find out more about BI Consulting Group or how we can help you with Oracle Essbase, please contact us through our website at biconsultinggroup.com. Thank you for everyone for joining us on today's webinar, and thank you to Rodney Adkins for presenting. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.